My name is Cham, the host of Face to Face with Cham. We have just today with us from the Citizen Alliance. Citizens Alliance is an opposition political party headed by Dr. Ismail Sise, the then political guru at the University of the Gambia. So let me invite my guest, Mr. You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for having me.
Could you please introduce yourself to our viewers?
My name is Omar Dibba, the National Youth President of Citizens Alliance and also the interim administrative secretary of the party. Basically, I am a native of Farafenye, a current legal student, and I have decided to join Citizens Alliance, I think, a year ago now, and run at Congress, and I was unopposed, so I got elected into the position of National Youth President. So it's a big pleasure to have me on behalf of the party today.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Dibba. We hope to have a very fruitful discussion on your party policies and programs. Barely we have less than 9 months ahead of the presidential polls, and this is the reason why we invite you here to share some of your strategies with us. Could you please share your party's values and principles with our viewers?
Thank you very much. Every political party, of course, have ideals and values that it adheres to, that it upholds, and that it preaches. Citizens Alliance, as a political party, equally has values, and these include transparency, this include good governance, this include respect for fundamental rights of people, this include equality, and this includes accountability, and so on and so forth. The list continues. So basically, these are the cornerstones, these are the foundational structures upon which our party is propounded and established. And these are values that are so dear to us that we uphold and serve as tools that shape or guide our actions as a political party and our activities in whatever we do.
How optimistic or how so is Citizen Alliance going to comply with these values? Because some would say when opposition establishes a political party, they just come up with very beautiful words, that is to ensure that they will tell people that we're going to ensure transparency, probity, and other things are adhered to. How so is Citizen Alliance going to comply with these values?
Well, as a political party, I think we have done quite a lot in making sure that we demonstrate the belief we have in these values and manifest them in what we do. If you look around, you see political parties with a lot of values that they designate to themselves. I believe, or it is our conviction as a political party, that we will adhere to these values, not just for our interests as a party, but also aligning it to the values of our nation, because these are things that are basically part of or form part of the national values of our country and our democratic governance and democratization. So we will uphold these values. Violation of these values would not only be a violation of the ideas we believe in and the principles that guide us, but even probably at some extent the Constitution of the Gambia, the trust of the public, and even the staining of our image as a political party. So obviously, we know at some point political parties can deviate from these values. At some point, they can be indulging affairs that would amount to a gross violation publicly of these values. But we've been doing great. We've been ensuring accountability by speaking against ills of the government. We have also been providing alternative solutions to things that we think are not properly done by the government or managed. We've also demonstrated accountability to the public by making sure that we organize our internal party structure in a way that would conform with democratic principles and standards. So these are things that are so dear to us. These are values and ideals that are so dear to us that we will continue to adhere to. Yes.
Thank you so very much for that. Like I've said earlier, we have barely 9 months, less than 9 months to the presidential polls. What is your state of preparedness at the Citizen Alliance camp in order to garner support for to win the presidential election December 4th?
I think we are one of the newest established political parties in the Gambia, but we have outgrown a lot of political parties since our inception as a political party. We have been focusing so much on grassroots mobilization. We have an outreach team that has been doing a fantastic job, not just within Combo, but particularly the rural areas. We have been to, I think, almost every village in this country. We have penetrated these villages. We have held meetings there. We have built our structures there. We have representatives in each of the districts in this country, in each of the regions in this country. And we have gone deep into even the wards. So in terms of our preparedness, I think the political space right now is a market for competition, and we are competing well. What we believe in is what policies, what programs we present to the Gambian people, not how many people we can attract, but where do we want to take them when we even get them into our circle. So we are well prepared for the election, bearing in mind that we just have 7 months, few weeks to the elections. And it would not be a surprise to me if we make landmark achievements in the elections, because the grassroots mobilization strategy of Citizens Alliance is something that conforms with the possibility of achieving victory even in this election. So we look forward to making more successes in our outreach, and yes, basically we are very optimistic.
You've mentioned that you've been the party executive, which include yourself, have been to the communities to talk to them about your programs and policies. What have you diagnosed, to be the challenges in the communities, that must have been as a result of bad governance?
Well, we have seen a lot of challenges that communities face, particularly in rural communities. We have been to villages that are 7 kilometers away from healthcare centers. We've been to villages that don't even have clean water to drink. We've been to communities that lack market. We've been to communities that don't have good roads. We've been to communities where pregnant women, even on their way to the hospital, would die on a tricycle, if you really know what I mean, and how hard it is for a pregnant woman who is heavily pregnant to be carried on a tricycle to a healthcare center. So there are a lot of challenges. We have diagnosed these challenges. At some point we made interventions, particularly in NBR. We've established, we have provided 3 communities with boreholes. We also have been to a lot of women gardens, and we have been providing them with seedlings, with also fertilizers and other things that would enable and empower them to increase the productivity of their gardening and their agricultural businesses. So the issue of bad governance in relation to the challenges is the government has been paying so much attention on the urban center. Obviously, if you look at our population, 58% of our entire youth population is based in rural, urban Gambia, and the rest of the percentage is in rural Gambia. Of course, they would migrate in pursuit of livelihood and dignity in the urban Gambia. How ready is the government to accommodate these people is a big question for us. And this is something we must focus for us to be able to put in place strategic measures that would address these challenges. And that would boil down to government's blatant disregard to decentralization of public services, public institutions, and also social services. These are things that are not accessible to these communities.
So how do you think the Citizen Alliance-led government is going to restructure all these problems in the best interest of improving the life and livelihood of the rural people?
Primarily, we believe in the potentials of our country. We believe that the country has a lot of resources that could enable it provide and care for the needs of the people. So what Citizens Alliance is going to do basically is to make sure that we create wealth first. We also make sure that we ensure equitable distribution of state wealth. The government currently, greater percentage of its budget goes to operational cost, if you look at it. Furnishing of offices, buying of vehicles, maintenance of vehicles, and so on. If you look at the Maputo Declaration, a particular percentage of which the government is a signatory, a particular percentage, of course, should be should be pumped into the welfare of citizens, a particular percentage of the entire budget of a country in a year. But this is something that has not been happening. So equitable distribution of state wealth is a foundational element of Citizens Alliance government's intention in its strategy of development.
What would you say to those that will say that it's just a mere claim? Equitable distribution of wealth might just be an empty claim. So how do you ensure that is going to materialize in your government?
We have to make sure that we build the system that would ensure the equitable distribution of state resources. Look, the issue is the government structures are there to provide services for the people. And these people include the entire Republic of the Gambia, not just people in Combo. So the people that are being sidelined or being at some point disadvantaged due to lack of decentralization of government services and particularly social infrastructure, are communities that need a definite intervention as we speak. Critics, of course, would have a say against anything that anyone like to do, but the possibility of this is what we need to believe in. I believe that if wealth is created, if wealth is basically what the party has as a government and it concentrates on distributing it, it wouldn't do it unfairly. It would do it very fairly. And this would be guided by the developmental needs of the Gambian people, irrespective of wherever they live. Every person in this country, irrespective of the remotest village you live in, deserves a life of dignity. You should have access to clean water. You should have access to healthcare service. You should have access to education. These are things we believe should be basically provided for citizens, and this should form the primary function of any government in this country.
What do you have to say to those that will think, okay, all what you're trying to say is just a strategy to get the votes of the electorate? When you assume your political desires, you put all these promises into a rubbish bin. So do we expect that from Citizen Alliance?
The purpose of our establishment is to respond to the dire need of leadership in this country. And I see at no point in the future or now when we will renege on that mission. Our mission is to ensure Gambians live a life of dignity. We have to come up with strategies. And those strategies should have indicators as to where we want to take the country to from now when we take over government. These strategies, of course, need to be communicated to the people. And it is not for us to renege on these promises because there are skepticisms in few people. Obviously, people can have doubts in issues. People can have doubts around strategies, particularly political party strategies and the plans. But I can tell you for a fact that the Citizens Alliance, it's not giving a vision to the country that is not attainable, despite its long-term or short-term as a goal. Everything in our manifesto, in all the 4 pillars of our manifesto, are attainable and they are measurable, and they, of course, could be attained and delivered for the Gambia by the Citizens Alliance. So these are not mere promises we make. These are not mere strategies we present to garner vote from people. It is not a strategy to procure votes from the electorates. No. It's a vision we are communicating, and we believe in those visions. If you look around, a lot of political parties have been founded well before we came. A lot of political parties also got founded after we have already come into existence. But which of them have released a political manifesto for Gambians to read? Barely none of them. So this is an indication of our seriousness and a manifestation of what we intend to do for our country. Not for any credit or whatever, but for the love of republic, and to also make sure that we salvage the country from the bondage of leadership it is currently going through.
As a political party, one would say you are government in waiting, and then it is a responsibility of the political parties, including individuals, to start doing some social projects, start providing some social projects to the communities. As you speak now, could you please tell us whether there is any social project that Citizen Alliance, which is a government in waiting, have implemented or observed in any of the rural communities in this country?
I said earlier, we have done a few good things. At some point, we did not publish some of the things that we have done for some reasons, because these are things that, these are supports from people that are apolitical at some point. They have seen the good work we have done by visiting communities and hearing from the communities as to the challenges they face. And they decided to show support to us and in humanity to those communities. Well, just to cut it short, we have been providing a lot of services to women in particular. We've been visiting women gardens and we've been providing them with seeds. We've been providing them with farming implements. We've been also providing them with fertilizer. Coming to the side of the young people, we've been organizing leadership trainings for young people. We've been organizing training for young people on party policies, on our party policies, party values, and even our party's vision and mission. And these are certified trainings that we do for them. Also, we've been intervening in communities that need water. We have dug boreholes for communities outside the Gambia. The primary needs of these communities cannot be solved by an opposition party without having a very broad base of funding. And as a new party, of course, we have been going through the clutches of lack of funding, because I mean, most of our funds are derived from our members themselves. So we cannot do, at some point, we cannot do king-size projects for communities as an opposition party unless our revenue stream is being broadened, is being stimulated. We have the capacity financially to do these interventions for them, but the willingness, of course, is there, and we've seen their cooperation in that regard. And yes, these are some of the few things we have done for people.
Going by your policies, it seems that you have a great plan for the young people of this country. And if you look at the demographic dividend of this country, the young people consist of almost 60% of the national population. What can the young people of this country expect from CA-led government?
The expectations from young people should be very high from our political party. I think basically we are one of the most, if not the only most youth-friendly party in the country, not just by structure, but even by leadership. And we have drawn a strategic plan, and that is being incorporated in our manifesto as to what the young people of this country need, not for themselves, but for the country. I think the primary foundation that the young people need in response to the realities of our country, in response to the challenges our country is going through, is to build their capacity first. We believe so much in the potentials of the young people of this country. We believe these potentials can be harnessed for the greater good of society and for the greater good of the state. So primarily, the young people need the capacity in skills, the capacity in knowledge, and also the capacity in terms of financial support. And this will include making sure that we create an enabling environment for those that are into skill acquisition, have access to skill acquisition centers, like tertiary institutions that would be offering vocational skill trainings for our young people. But the basic idea is to make sure that whatever skill we're trying to offer to the young people matches with the need of our society, so that our problems can be solved by ourselves and by us in our country. So the young people, of course, have a great parcel to take from Citizens Alliance. As far as our store is concerned, the social Cham services that we have for the young people in our manifesto are viable, and we have a young leadership, of course, that can easily interact with the young people. So knowing the problem is not just our action, but making sure that we put in place a common strategy that will address these problems, and this is what we've been engaged in.
But then governments come and go, and most of these people will promise young people that this is what we're going to do when we assume leadership role. What would you tell us to affirm our belief that you're not going to sway from the promises that you've made to the young people of this country?
In response to that, I think Citizens Alliance have been greatly influencing the thinking of young people in this country. And that has accorded it a lot of confidence in the young people. Most of the people joining our party daily in their large numbers are young people. So it's not going to be a short journey wherein we're going to betray their confidence, wherein we're going to betray their trust. Whatever we intend in that manifesto for the young people and for this country are things that we're not going to renege on. And we will make sure that they are implemented to their full effect, to make sure that young people, Gambian women, and Gambians in general live a life of dignity in their country.
That will bring me to the issue of the, we have the maternal mortality is on increase in this country, and we see women dying at labor. What do we expect from the Citizen Alliance-led government to address this social menace?
The plight of women, particularly in regards to health, is quite heartbreaking for us. We have demonstrated our commitment to making sure that women are protected. Women are giving the basics that they need as women to live a full-fledged life. Maternal mortality is a big concern for us. And that is why not long ago, the Citizens Alliance embarked on a blood donation to the Carnifing General Hospital in support of solidarity to our women who will lose their valuable lives while giving birth to young Gambians in our dilapidated health care. We would continue to engage women. We would continue to care for them. And it is our belief that women that constitute another portion of our population need the undivided attention of the government to make sure that they live a good life. So primarily, women have been a greater focus on the constituent of our programs, and we have been engaging them. We've been visiting women businesses. We've been attending women programs. We've been interacting with women generally, just to make sure that we don't just know their problems, but get them involved as to how we can help to ameliorate those problems.
We come to your party's position in terms of preparedness for the December presidential polls. Already, if you look at the political realm, it's been crowded, and barely you are a very young political party. How optimistic you think you will survive the contest in December 4th?
Well, it's not about how long you've been in existence. It's about how progressive you are as a party. Some political parties have been in existence for quite a very long time, and they have not done so much great. But we have seen after our inception, we've done a lot of great things, and I can say that we are the fastest growing political party as we speak today.
And I want you to tell me some of those great things that your party have implemented since your establishment.
Starting with the COVID-19 situation, when we launched our party, shortly there was a pandemic outbreak in the whole world. So we could not do much, but even within the period of the pandemic, we have done community interventions. We have done supplies of masks, supplies of items to communities. We have been so much engaged in civic awareness in communities within and outside Combo. We have also been sponsoring football tournaments, not just within Combo, but outside of Combo. We've been paying attention to women gardens. We've also been visiting institutions that we believe, community institutions, I can say, that we believe the state can tap into and make good use of it for the greater good of the country. So basically, I would not be able to mention each and everything that we have done since our inception, but these are some great things that we have achieved so far.
In the December presidential poll is very close. Do we expect any alliance with your party, forming an alliance with other political parties in this country to unseat the incumbency?
Well, It's a competition, and we believe we can win alone. That's our belief. And for now, we have no intention of forming any coalition with any political party. I think what matters is what we sell to the people and how welcoming they are to that. And the recent increase in the welcoming of our leadership is something that we are grateful of, and we look forward to making greater successes.
And if you could tell us some of the indicators that make you believe that you can win alone, because that sounds very confident.
Well, we believe that the Gambians would make a wise decision at the polls. They have gone through a lot, and they're ready to effect change through a leadership that will respond to their need, not just any type of leadership. And we've been actively engaging Gambians in making sure that they realized the vision we're communicating, and they know how significant and how impactful that will be on their lives and the country at large. So we have so much belief that we can pull the bull by its own, all alone. And well, time will surely testify. We're progressing, and the competition is high. We believe what we are selling is marketable. We believe that we have a leadership that would respond to the dire need of this country. We believe that the leadership, of course, is competent enough to take Gambia to the promised land. And this, we think, would be a cornerstone that would form the decision of Gambians in the December polls 2021.
What makes you believe that the Gambians have understood, your messaging, your agenda, and you think that you can win the presidential polls? We've seen political parties in this country. I wouldn't mention their names, but then they've been talking to people about issues of corruption and issues like that. But yet still, they seem to pull less in terms of in terms of votes. So, what do you think? What makes you believe that those people understand what you're trying to tell them?
You see, one of the best opportunities for an opposition political party is the lack of vision of an incumbent. When the incumbent is not visionary, when the incumbent is not responsive to the needs of people, it does not become a very hard work for opposition political parties to win elections, because what people expect in 2026 and what has been delivered to them is quite a big blow. I think nothing has even been delivered to us. So that makes next election a very high-stake election. And that makes Gambians more prepared to be able to make a determination of who exactly would be able to effect the change as a leader that they have been yearning for quite so long. So we believe that the Gambian people would, of course, as the major players, would decide based on what the country needs and who actually, or which party actually has the best programs, has the best policies, has the best strategy to alleviate them from those bondages. So we have so much hope. We have high hopes that we can pull the bull by its horn all alone. So this conviction is not formed on mere illusion or whatever, but the progresses that we have registered in communities. We have made groundbreaking progresses in communities that, in fact, the general public believe are no-go areas. At some point, when we say we're going on outreach, people would say that when you visit certain communities, you're not going to have even 3 people coming out to listen to you. But those are places that we have seen people coming out in their tens and tens of numbers.
But you have some governments that believe that the incumbent has put in place some very fantastic development, to addressing the needs of the Gambian people. So what would say, why should the Citizen Alliance come up to say we're going to contest against the incumbent? And these issues that you've mentioned that has not done this, some would say it's not true.
I think that is unjustifiable. If you look at our sectors separately or even interlinked, our education system is still bad. The new curriculum that we expect to deliver the needs and aspirations of our knowledge base is even crumbling. The healthcare system, it's bad. The roads, transportation is bad. Our agriculture sector, it's very bad. Farmers are complaining that government cannot even buy their farming products. So I don't think anything has been functioning. since the coming of Barrow's government into office. We must not be fooled by the infrastructure that the government is currently rolling out to garner support from rural communities. I mean, but making sure that the initiatives that government roll out are initiatives that would suit the needs of people. For example, if you look at the YEP project, I mean, the government has just been basically offering sponsorship, I can say, and little training for people, but the market is not there for them. The market needs to be available. You cannot give me $2,000 and ask me to operate business at a side corner when I have other big businesses around me, big shops where people are going to buy goods. So the protection is not there, the safeguards are not there. But basically, in response to your questions, we have a social service team for entrepreneurs in our manifesto that we're going to roll out for entrepreneurs. And also, internship opportunities are available for these entrepreneurs, not just for businesses purposes, but also in other aspects of their life skills. So overall, this is a big concern for us, and our manifesto has in detail addressed this whole thing. Yeah.
So, what will be your first? What will be your priority areas when you come into power in your first 100 days?
I think the arrangement of our manifesto has highlighted that. We believe first that we need to have a prosperous economy, and with that we cannot have without creating wealth. We think that one, we should commercialize the agriculture sector, and second, we should look at our health sector. What do we think should be done? What innovations, what researches should we undertake? What policies should we put in place to make sure that our health sector is up and running? Our education system is up and running. But economic prosperity and creation of decent jobs for Gambians is our primary foundation. We believe that we need to create the wealth, and our economy needs to be stabilized. It needs to be regulated so that Gambians who are workers of government and private institutions will not feel to even be exploited. At some point, if a Citizens Alliance gets all these desires, I think Gambia would go in for having a minimum wage. This would, of course, go through some legislative processes and so on, but a minimum age would be something that would be of great for Gambians to avoid exploitations. If you look at our salaries today, the pay scales are too low. Gambians cannot even survive depending on their salary. That is why there's too much corruption. That is why our state institutions are ineffective. And that is why people don't have good livelihood in our country.
What would you say to those that would say Citizen Alliance is over-ambitious? When it comes to, when you looked at your agenda, one would say it is practically impossible for you to implement all this agenda. What is your reaction to that?
Our manifesto is based on proper research. We have been to communities, we have diagnosed the problem of this country. The things that people need are things that we have conducted research on, and that the manifesto is informed by data. And I think it is not just a document that we presented for the sake of presenting. And the plans in there are not just achievable within 5 years. There are long-term plans, there are short-term plans, there are middle-term plans, and so on. But overall, I can tell you that the policies are attainable. We can take Gambia to the dreamland that we want to take it to. The potentials are there, the wealth is there, the resources are there, the leadership is what we need, and that we can usher in as a party.
But Gambia has a good leadership. One will criticize to say Gambia has a good leadership. The leadership that brought about a realistic democracy. You know, you have the social projects that have been implemented. So, what leadership are you talking about?
A responsive leadership, a leadership that is accountable, a leadership that is visionary is what Gambia needs. Not just a leadership by name, and a leadership by... You cannot call a leadership just because it has brought you democracy. That is an inherent right. The Gambians deserve to live and enjoy every principle, every standard, and every practice of democracy within the remits of law. So that is not a privilege that anyone can offer to the citizens. It is their right, it is their society, it is their state. So I think the leadership that Gambians desire for is the leadership that will provide for its developmental need as a country. For far too long, we have cried about poor education. For far too long, we have cried about poor health system. For far too long, we have cried about lack of good transportation. So these things need to be solved, and these things can only be solved by a leadership that is responsive, by a leadership that is visionary. And that is what exactly we have lacked.
Okay, that brings us to the issue of the constitution, the draft constitution. The Gambians have directed so much energy to ensuring that a new constitution is provided for, to usher in a third republic. But along the line, we've seen that due to a partisan interest, the constitution, the hopes are being shattered, and everything, the hopes are being dropped into a trash bin. What is your position? What is the position of CA with regards to the draft constitution? Do you prefer the draft or you prefer the 1997 constitution?
I don't think any political party will prefer the 1997 constitution.
Other political parties does.
Well, it has not been publicly brought to my attention that any political party would prefer the 1997 constitution. And I think we have all learned from the TRRC, particularly when they got to the institutional hearings from the judiciary. We know how bad, to what extent the 1997 constitution has damaged our society and how bad the laws have been amended. So our position on the draft has been very clear. We need a constitution that reflects the wishes of Gambians, and that is being drafted. Unfortunately, for political reasons, by political players, the draft could not pass, which is quite sad, and we still live by that regret as a political party. And we believe that Gambia dearly need the draft constitution to have passed. And we have taken an active role in making sure that we preach to the Gambian population the significance of having that draft passed. We've taken active part in negotiations for the revival and resuscitation of the draft. But unfortunately, the draft could not pass. However, we look forward to the next election, but knowing full well the danger that it comes with, that is going for election in 2021 December without a term limit. That is quite unfortunate, and it is a very, very substantial moody mark on our democracy if we should go for next election without having any constitutional safeguard that will prevent self-perpetuation and dictatorship in our country. That is quite unfortunate.
Thank you so very much. Viewers, you are watching us on Caribbean News Network. This is your show, Face to Face with Cham. Our host today is Mr. Dibba, the youth president for the Citizen Alliance, a political party that is led by Mr. Dr. Ismail Sise, the then political science lecturer at the University of the Gambia. Mr. Dibba, we talk about national security. Recently, there is too much of breaking, there's too much of killing, there's too much of rape. How do you think the Citizen Alliance is going to change the narratives when you are in power to ensure that security is provided across?
Basically, institutional reforms would form a great part of the success of our security sector reform. We know that the government is working on security sector reform. Little do the public know the things that have been progressively done with regards to that whole process. The current high rate of crimes, the insecurity that the public has felt, it's quite sad, because it is the primary duty of the state to protect the territorial integrity and even the citizens of the country. So high crime rate obviously needs an undivided attention by the government. I think we, in combating crimes, would not only focus on giving patrol vehicles to our security apparatus, not only giving them boots for them to live in police posts and police stations that are not even conducive for them, but making sure that we be innovative, we make use of technology to combat against crime. We equip the police, provide them the necessary training and the materials that they need to be able to carry out their duties. Obviously, community policing will form great part of our security policy. Making sure the lives of the people are protected has to do with making sure that the police work cooperatively with the society for prevention of crime and also detection of crime. So this is chiefly a concern for citizens alike.
What is your reaction to this, to the critics that says the surge in crime rate is as a result of inaction of the government in dealing with the security situation of the country? What is your take on this?
I think the government has basically not been proactive in responding to situations unless they get escalated. If you look at most of the incidents, there have been early warning signals from these situations that there is going to be possible tension and violence in some of these communities, including Gunjur, including Faraba, including Sanyang, and some other places within the country. Obviously, we know the government cannot have security stations in every part of the country, and that is the more reason why the government has to be innovative in terms of how it combats security. The use of technology would do great. We can have even a number, a security number, a national security number that people can call in terms of emergency to make sure that they get security responses in the soonest time possible. But these things are not available in the country, and these are basics for God's sake. So the government has really not been proactive, and it has only been reactive in situations, particularly in incidents that involve community members and foreigners, as we have seen in most part of Combo South. So it is quite unfortunate that the government has not been taking proactive steps, but rather taking reactive steps in addressing security situations.
It is not the responsibility of the government to play a proactive role. This includes the opposition, the political parties, include the CA. What is your take, or what would you have done differently if you are in government?
That's quite right. Security is a concern for all. But we must be frank enough to say that it is the primary duty of the state to ensure protection of the people. And this is the responsibility, the core function of the government. What political parties might do or are doing is to sensitize the people on civil rights, on crime prevention, wherein they can. But these are areas that you need some kind of special expertise to be able to communicate them. So primarily we can do sensitizations on the issues of crime, causes of crimes, and so on. But it is the responsibility of the state to really provide security for citizens.
We come to the diasporian votes. Diaspora is categorized as the eighth consequence of this country. And there is a lot of issue that is cropping up to say government saying that there is no much fund, and IEC include them to be part of those that will vote. And then that seems not possible. What is your take on this again?
Well, the election bill has addressed that. The precedent set by the Supreme Court in the case of Dibba versus IEC has also made that very clear, that diasporians who are Gambians who are eligible to vote should be allowed to vote. Their right of franchise should be respected by the Independent Electoral Commission. And I think the Independent Electoral Commission has to devise a framework as to how they will register diasporians when they start the registration, or even before they start the registration. That framework should be made known to the general public. But right now, we are in dilemma. We don't know what means IEC is going to use to enfranchise eligible Gambian voters in the diaspora. Are they going to transport ballot drums to every country for Gambian diasporians to vote? Are they going to use ballot paper for them to cast their vote in Gambian embassies, of course, which are political institutions of the incumbent, and that can cause causes of lack of trust in the election itself. So there's a lot of problems surrounding the whole issue. But our position has been that the diasporans constitute great part of our state economy. And for that reason, in fact, in our manifesto, there's an establishment, a whole plan called the Diaspora Remittance Fund, see a diaspora remittance fund, which would be instituted as a state funding system that, as a government, we think would respond daily to solving a lot of challenges and also making sure that the remittances that they send into the country are put to good use by the government. Basically, diasporans should really be allowed to vote if they are qualified under our Gambian law, and the government should provide the IEC with the necessary tools, with the necessary avenue for them to explore the possibility. But we have seen the Minister of Finance at the National Assembly saying that the 2021 budget does not in fact include the registration of Gambian diasporians. So that doesn't stop the government from coming with an appropriation bill, of course. When the government is stuck with cash, when it need money for its practices, including corrupt practices, they take bills and table them as appropriation bill before National Assembly. So why not this one?
You've just mentioned a very, very important issues, that including the corrupt practices. What are some of the indicators that you could spot out and say, Barrow-led government is corrupted? Because this could just be a mere allegation.
We have seen scandals. We have seen scandals. We have seen the passport scandal. We have seen the 34 million scandal. We have seen lack of total transparency being pronounced by international partners of this government, including the United States of America, in a paper published for all to read. The corruption index, the Gambia has rising. We, I think, about 178 now. So it is not a mere say that the government is not doing much to combat corruption. The government itself has been engaged in a lot of, it has been engaged in a lot of corruption practices. These scandals that I have mentioned are just few. And recently we have seen Gambians making a lot of buzz on social media about the funding that the government got in relation to the Miami case that they are pursuing at the ICJ. So there are a lot of things that have indicated, obviously, that the government is not doing much in fighting corruption, particularly institutional corruption.
Thank you so very much. You were given the chance to rate the Barrow-led government. If you had to rate President Barrow and his governance, how would you rate?
It's a total failure.
Percentage?
It's 2. Obviously, Barrow has really not done anything.
Thank you so very much. Viewers, this marks the end of this interview, face-to-face with Cham. My guest was Mr. Dibba, the National Youth President for the Gambia, for the Citizen Alliance political party led by Mr. Dr. Ismail Sise. What is your last word?
My last word to Gambians is to take the election serious. The 2021 election is a high-stake election. It will determine how far we will go in providing for the generations of our country. It will make a determination of what route we take after we ousted out the wrong years of dictatorship in our country. So I would advise young people to take the election serious. I would advise them to to play an active part in politics, obviously, by joining political parties. And they're welcome to Citizens Alliance because we are very friendly and we don't use them as tools for political mobilization.
All right. Thank you so very much. Until we come your way again. I also host Mr. Cham.
Thank you very much.